The air in our home has felt like a hollow, echoing chamber ever since the crash. It isn't just that Dad is gone. It's that my mom is trying to conjure him back into existence, using me as the clay. Every morning, I stare into the mirror and look at my short, jagged hair, feeling the phantom weight of the long curls that used to fall down my back. Mom, please, don't cut my hair. I begged her this morning, my voice small and cracking. I'll look like a boy, Mom, please. She didn't even look me in the eye as she snipped away, the scissors clicking like a countdown. Trust me, you look amazing, she whispered, her voice sounding like it was coming from a different room. It's just hair, Diana. It will grow back. But it wasn't just hair to me. It was the last thing I had left of him. He loved brushing it, and every time the scissors took another inch, I felt another memory of his hands being lopped off and swept onto the floor. Afterward, I stood in front of the pretty, flowy dresses in the shop window, wishing I could feel the silk against my skin. Mom, I like those. The pretty ones, I said, pointing with a shaking finger. She didn't even pause, grabbing a stiff leather jacket and dark pants from the boys section instead. Not today. You're wearing these, she commanded, her face set in a mask of grief she refused to name. I pulled on the heavy sleeves, feeling like I was disappearing into a costume. But these are boys' clothes, I whispered, looking at my reflection and seeing a ghost instead of a girl. At school, everyone whispers now. Is that Diana or her brother? I keep my head down and walk fast. When I get home, Mom is waiting with Dad's old video games already set up. Come on, let's play like you used to with him, she says, forcing a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. I stand there holding the controller with cold hands, pretending to enjoy it even though I hate these games. Every time I laugh a little, she looks so happy, like she's seeing him instead of me. Last night, I finally asked her, Mom, do you even see me anymore? Or am I just becoming Dad for you? She froze. Her whole body trembled. For a few seconds, the whole house went completely silent. Then she slowly turned to me, her eyes glassy with tears she refused to let fall. What did you just say? Sub for P2. The silence in the room was so thick, I could barely breathe. My mom just stared at me, her face twisting into something I didn't recognize. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was like I had broken a spell she was desperate to keep alive. How could you say that? Everything I do it for us. I do it to keep his spirit in this house. I looked down at the baggy leather jacket, the one that smelled like old cigarettes and Dad's cologne. I felt like I was being buried alive in it. But he's gone, Mom! And I'm still here! I'm a girl! I'm your daughter! Not a replacement for the man you lost! She just walked over to the TV, turned on one of Dad's old fishing videos, and sat on the couch, staring at the screen. It was like I had become invisible the second I stopped pretending to be him. I ran to the bathroom and locked the door. I looked at my hair, that short, jagged mess she'd forced on me. I looked at the dark pants and the heavy boots. I didn't see Diana. I saw a hollow version of Maxwell, my father. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed a pair of old ribbons I'd hidden under the sink, the only things I had left from before the crash. I tried to tie them into my short hair, but they just fell out. I started sobbing, hitting the mirror with my palms. I walked back out, clutching Dad's old leather jacket. I went straight to the living room and threw it on the floor. I'm not playing the game anymore, Mom. I'm not wearing his clothes, and I'm not playing those stupid games. Put that back on, Diana. You look just like him. Don't take that away from me, she shouted. She reached for me, her hands shaking, trying to pull the heavy sleeves back over my arms. It wasn't a hug. It was like she was trying to force me back into a cage. Look at me. Look at my face, Mom. Not his eyes, not his hair. Mine. My mom stopped. She looked at me, really looked at me for the first time in months. Her hand touched my cheek, and for a split second, I thought she saw me. But then, she whispered a name. She whispered, Max, why are you being so mean? My heart shattered. There was no saving her. Is a mother's grief an excuse to erase her daughter's identity? Comment stay or leave.
I was standing there, shaking so hard I thought I'd collapse. Two men, two identical faces. My head was spinning. I started thinking back to all the little things. Last week, when we were in the garden, William forgot how I liked my tea. I laughed it off then, thinking he was just stressed about the wedding. Now, it felt like a giant red flag I was too blind to see. I looked at both of them and whispered, "If you're the real William, tell me what you said to me the night you proposed." The words no one else heard. The man I just married started sweating. He stammered something about how it was too private to say in front of a crowd. But the man at the door, he didn't hesitate. He stepped forward and whispered the exact phrase I had tucked away in my heart. I felt sick. I looked at the man standing in front of me. He'd scream, "My love, let me explain!" But before I can do anything, the real William, so I thought, his face changed. The gentle act was gone. He looked at me with this chilling smile and told the guards that the prince was the fake and to throw him in the dungeon immediately. I watched them drag the real William away while he screamed my name. It was the most haunting sound I've ever heard. Now, I'm trapped. He looks so much like William, it was terrifying. But the way he smirked at himself in the mirror, that wasn't my prince. That was a snake. I obediently went along with all his games, skillfully making him lower his guard little by little. Then, one night, he ordered me to bring him the most delicious wine in the kingdom. I nodded quietly and walked into the kitchen. Before filling his cup, I secretly added a few drops of magic potion. He drank it without any suspicion, savoring every sip. Moments later, he collapsed onto the bed and fell into a deep sleep. I ran desperately down the cold stone steps, my heart pounding wildly. When I reached the cell, I finally saw the real William, the man I truly loved. He was badly beaten and bruised, yet the moment he saw me, his eyes lit up with a spark of hope that the imposter could never replicate. We only had 5 minutes. I unlocked the door, but William stopped me. He whispered that simply running away wasn't enough. The imposter would hunt us down. We had to switch places instead. We returned to the bedroom and quickly swapped their clothes. 2 identical faces, one a dream, the other a nightmare. By morning, the so-called intruder was dragged away screaming that he was the real prince being shipped off to a distant prison colony. No one believed him. I stood on the balcony beside the man I loved for the first time in months. I felt truly safe. He leaned in and whispered the same words he had said the night he proposed to me. I may have married the wrong man at the altar, but I made sure the right one was standing next to me when the sun rose. The imposter had stolen his fate.
While I was sleeping, a stranger walked over and placed a phone on my bed. I asked my mother if it was her, but she denied it. No matter how many times I checked the security camera footage, I couldn't identify who they were. Too curious, I pressed the power button. Just then, the phone rang. On the other end was the voice of a woman. "Today, hug your mother for a long time." I was terrified, because that voice sounded exactly like mine. The whole day, I couldn't stop thinking about the strange phone call. That evening, my mother was about to go into the kitchen to cook dinner. For some reason, I suddenly ran over and hugged her tightly. She was also surprised by my action. "Are you okay?" At that moment, the only thing echoing in my mind was the voice. "Hug your mother for a long time." Just then, a horrifying explosion rang out. The entire kitchen was swallowed by flames. My father quickly pulled my mother and me outside. A few minutes later, the firefighters confirmed. The gas line had been leaking beforehand. If my mother had entered the kitchen any earlier, nothing could have been saved. I fearfully remembered the phone. Who exactly was she? The phone rang again. "Tomorrow, don't let your father go on his business trip." I quickly asked, "Who are you?" But the person on the other end remained silent, and then the call ended. The next morning, I pretended to have a high fever to keep my father at home. Just 1 hour later, breaking news appeared on television. The vehicle carrying my father's coworkers had been involved in a serious accident. Not a single person in the vehicle returned safely. Because of that, my father survived. In the years that followed, whenever a disaster was about to happen, the phone would ring again. I never stopped searching for that woman's identity to thank her, but I always failed. On my birthday, the phone in my hand suddenly caught fire, terrifying me. A note then appeared. "I am you at the age of 25. It turned out it was me from the future. There were things so strange that I couldn't explain why they happened. Would you trust your future self?
At the age of 6, I saw my mother die before it even happened. The moment I stepped into the house, a sudden vision appeared before my eyes. My mother was cooking when the kitchen suddenly burst into flames. Terrified, I smashed the stove and destroyed everything before the disaster could happen. Right at that moment, my mother walked in. She angrily scolded me because she thought I was just being naughty. I desperately tried to warn her that she was going to die. "If you cook, you will die!" She stubbornly went into the kitchen to prepare dinner, while I screamed and cried helplessly. Just as I had predicted, the gas tank leaked and burst into flames. My mother was gone forever in the fire. At the funeral, the police came to take statements. I told them the entire truth, that I had warned my mother, but nobody believed me and thought I was crazy. My father covered my mouth because he thought I had watched too many delusional movies. From that day on, I lived in fear and wore sunglasses 24 hours a day, even while sleeping. The neighbors whispered behind my back that I was a devil child because I had cursed my mother to die. "You devil!" They rushed at me, bullied me, and smashed my glasses. Right at that moment, another horrifying vision appeared. Out of nowhere, a car lost control and violently struck one of the boys who had been bullying me. "Get away from here!" I screamed in warning, but they thought I was mentally insane. As a result, the car slammed into him with brutal force, crushing the boy to death on the spot. After everything, nobody still believed me and thought I was crazy. I was taken to the police station and forbidden from making reckless statements. It was insane how they always treated me like a lunatic when I only wanted what was best for them. Even though I didn't want to, I warned them that zombies would appear and devour everyone. The police officer angrily shouted in my face, "Shut up!" The way they looked at me was exactly like those neighbors back then. Fear, hatred, as if I were a monster. Right at that moment, the entire police station began to shake. Rocks and debris fell everywhere. Everyone panicked and turned to look at me. That's right, it was coming. The police officer fearfully turned toward me. "Is this little girl a troubled child? Or a real prophet?"
I never left her side even after I was gone. My name is Kai. I was 10 when the accident took me away from my family. But I couldn't leave my little sister behind. Every night after I passed, she would sit on her bed and talk to me like I was still there. "Big brother, today at school I got an A in math, just like you taught me," she would say with a bright smile. I sat beside her, even though she couldn't see me, and whispered, "I'm so proud of you, princess." Mom and Dad became worried. They heard her talking to someone every day. "Who are you talking to, sweetie?" Mom asked gently one evening. "Big brother, of course," she answered happily. "He's right here, sitting next to me." Dad's face turned pale. "Sweetheart, your brother has been gone for 3 years. He's not here anymore." But she just shook her head and smiled. "No, he's here. He never left me." They took her to see a doctor. They thought she was imagining things, that she was sick. They even gave her medicine to make the voices stop. Every time she took the pills, she cried and whispered to me, "Big brother, please don't go away. I don't want to stop seeing you." It broke my heart watching her suffer because of me. One night, after she fell asleep crying, I sat beside her bed like I always did. I gently stroked her hair, even if she couldn't feel it, and said softly, "I'm sorry, little one. I never wanted to make you sad. I stayed because I promised I would always protect you, and stayed beside you, watching you groan and be happy. But maybe it's time for me to let you go." The next morning, she woke up and looked around the room with tears in her eyes. "Big brother, are you still here?" She waited for a long time. Then, she whispered with a sad but brave smile, "I think you finally went to heaven, didn't you? It's okay. I'll be strong now." She hugged her pillow tightly, the same way she used to hug me. To my little sister, thank you for keeping me alive in your heart for so long. I love you forever.